Insatiable review of Netflix's latest original series, which consists of 12 episodes of roughly about 40 minutes or so each. This follows the main character, Patty, as she goes from being fat to really skinny after a situation with a hobo. So this is possibly one of the hardest reviews I've actually had to do, not only in speaking, but actually writing it. It's a show that's kind of all over the place, so it's not exactly just what the premise is. That's just the core concept that literally kickstarts what is going on, the character's motivations, and it really goes far being all over the place. So it was great at some times, and then maybe terrible at some times, or just wild at some times. I want to say it's kind of like Mean Girls, but not really quite like that. It's hard to describe where this falls in. So usually with the quantity of episodes in a Netflix series, especially when you get into the double digits, it tends to be a little slow on the pacing. It really takes its time. This one is go, go, go the entire time. And it is all over the place. So there's a large cast here, a lot of characters, and they slowly get introduced across the episodes. And it just becomes this wild time where things are all over the place. So you have a ton of things to go on, and a ton of different events during a single episode. And that directly kind of progresses the plot. And you would think that they would be able to cover everything in this, kind of first season, but they're definitely leaving it open for additional seasons in the future, which is great because I really love the ending. So I thought the start was really good. It was really weird towards the ending, and then the last couple episodes were really great again because they completely changed. It's just the themes and generally what's going on is changing all of the time, and you're not. It might be hard to follow for some. Well, not hard to follow as in the sense you don't know what's going on, but just in the sense that, what's it about constantly changes. It goes from being a thriller to a mystery to a comedy, and it does everything all at the same time, which kind of makes it a huge convergence of things. And it may sound weird as I'm describing it, but that kind of is how it goes as you watch it. So if you do start, you actually really should watch all the way through, because where they end things could possibly set it up to be a completely different show than when they start things. So when she starts off, she's large, they really want to paint that in there, and that's very momentary because she becomes skinny, but that setup is basically something that haunts her throughout the entire series, and you get a lot of very progressive forward thoughts and comments on things in society right now, and I'm going to move into that after I go over the plot details. So after this situation comes up, she has to go to a court hearing, and this is where she meets a pageant coach. So the main story of this entire series is her wanting to go to pageants and winning. And then there's also the theme of revenge that comes on top of that. Because she was large and she, has this hate towards other people, you really get to see that kind of spark within her, and it continues throughout the series, throughout the 12 episodes of, the first season, as she's trying to get some sort of revenge, or basically get back at people for what they've done to her. And again, that's not the huge focus, because that's just one plot. You've got all these side characters doing things and their problems, going towards the actual themes. So basically, there's a lot of body image themes, sexuality and gender, and there's some really, really weird scenes. This is a very adult-focused series. I'd say it really hits the female audience in the 20s to 30s kind of best. I don't like to specifically say audience types, but yeah, this is definitely not for children, because there's a lot of sexual content and so forth in it. Being Netflix, they can kind of go there, but I'm just saying. So going forward on that, theme-wise, it gets really dark at times too. I love how the comedy is very realistic, but not. It's the things you would say to somebody that you're thinking, but you wouldn't actually say. They go the extra mile and they actually deliver on that throughout the entire time. You'll be oh, you're thinking that, and then they'll be and they'll deliver on that joke, and it's funny. I found quite a bit of it funny. Might not be for everyone, but I did get a good laugh because they actually went the extra, mile to make sure that what you were thinking was actually delivered, comedy-wise, people. I can see this causing a lot of problems where people are maybe going to be upset about what's being shown, but yeah, kind of goes all over the place. So moving past that, some highlights included an exorcism, basically a kidnapping. There were some kind of dark, you know, people-based scenes later on where there may be some murders involved or something like that, which is crazy. Other than that, I do wish maybe the pageants were a little bit more present. This one seems to be more behind the scenes and kind of building towards, eventually actually getting into more higher-end competitions. So perhaps we'll see that in the second season and moving forward. Because this one was really focused on just getting everything rolling, establishing the universe and all the characters, and setting the place for what's going to happen. Anyways, it's hard to talk about the plot without actually, kind of giving away too many spoilers and stuff, because it is all over the place. So at other times, some things didn't really quite make sense. The character, the main one, is like a big point, and they mentioned this multiple times, that she's turning 18. And then yet at times she's like at the bar casually drinking, or just the conversations and some of the characters, how they interact with each other, the ages don't quite line up, and I thought that was really stuck out to me. Some things don't quite make sense, and some things are a little over the top, and there's a whole plot point with like a phone and then hacking it, which does really, you can't really do that, so that was kind of silly, and yeah, some of the points are weird, but overall it was enjoyable. It was very funny. I definitely think they do the comedy well in the sense that they actually go the full distance in delivering that and actually providing the laughs. I thought it looked good, great sets, and it's just one of the most bizarre kind of shows I've ever watched. It goes all over the place, it goes from being super serious to really casual to funny, and then the side characters and all their problems and the things they're dealing with were really well delivered. Because you get multiple kind of character lines going on. Obviously you got Patty, which is like the main character. She's the focal point of everyone. But you also have like her best friend that's kind of close to her, and then the pageant, guy that she works with. And I'd say those two people are mainly like the core characters. And then you got the surrounding extras, and they all got like separate plot lines. And it all comes together multiple times. It's not just like a bunch of side stories converging at one point. They converge at multiple points and then like weave back and forth, which is pretty crazy. And definitely helps create some good points of, comedic aspects or even some dark ones. And it definitely builds towards creating a character that's crazier and crazier as things go on. And her emotions are all over the place. It's just wild what she actually does and the steps that she goes to deliver and try to win these pageants and get revenge on people. And you get little teases of ultimately what it's building towards right from the start. And then it just kind of leaves you on an intense kind of cliffhanger. A couple different moments like that, where a lot of storylines are left incomplete just to kind of build towards what goes next. It definitely ends off on a core point, but it leaves you really wanting more once you hit that final segment. But again, there's a couple awkward episodes in between that they don't detract from the story, but they don't really push you forward to where you want to go at that point, but they are there to build the characters further and the universe in general. So yeah, it was well shot being on Netflix. I'm not surprised. There's some cool points where you actually get narration, so that's heavily used. So you get to hear what the characters are thinking, and that's a lot of how the story is told. So they'll be like chatting with someone, and they'll be like, "Oh, and I was wondering," it's like they're not saying that, but you can hear their thoughts, and that really works well for the extra bits. But again, where they actually do deliver on what people are thinking, that's not just general thoughts, that's people actually talking to one another, and that's what makes it so interesting. Overall, it was an interesting show. It was definitely a different type of experience, and it might be over the top and go a little bit too far at some points. I'm not sure that's going to really resonate or be something that everyone is interested in. I definitely overall liked it, but hated some episodes, and I thought some spots were overdone and a little over the top and a little bit unrealistic, but other points were creatively handled, and I loved at the point of where it finished, because I do want to see more of it, and I want to know where they're going to go from here, because it's a very good starting point for what could be an even more interesting and perhaps darker second season. So overall, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. You can read my full review in the description below. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Again, 12 episodes, about 40 minutes or so each. Fairly easy binge because it keeps you going, but there are going to be parts that I've mentioned multiple times where you might be like, but you should stick around just to get to the points and the parts where it's a lot darker, and it's potentially a different show because it flip-flops a lot. It can become a bit over the top and there's too much stuff going on, but it works well for keeping the pacing going, because these longer episodes, like Netflix-based seasons, the episodes tend to slow down and not have a very good pace to them, but this one keeps everything going fast. There's always something happening and lots of drama. Very, 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 very dramatic show. And that is Insatiable, Season 1 on Netflix.